World Photography Day. A picture is worth 1,000 words. On the occasion of World Photography Day, let's celebrate the artists who create magic with the lenses. Hi sir, welcome to the Meghalayan. It's a pleasure having you, especially on the occasion of World Photography Day. You tell me, how do you differentiate between a good photograph and a bad photograph?
That's a very tricky question, you know. And why? Because beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Right.
So what looks good to me may not sound good to you.
Yes.
But aesthetically, we say good image when there is a lot of thought you have put on it. When you create the image, you take care of certain aspects, and that is the visual reference of the photograph. What makes this photograph beautiful to me? It should translate to you as well. So if I'm able to translate it visually, and if you say yes, that is fine, then I can say yes, I have captured something.
Suddenly it's all sunny that side and it's all cloudy above us, whereas few minutes back the unpredictable weather of Shillong, Meghalaya. There are a lot of budding photographers who would actually, I think, look up to you, look up to your photographs, and they would be like, this is something that I want to click, or this is something I want to take inspiration from. What would be your message? What would be your guidance, or tips
That's
to them?
a very beautiful feeling, if somebody says, oh, I'm inspired by your image. That's a reward for us, actually. Yeah. Nevertheless, those who are budding or already in a photography, in the landscapes, I want to just say one word, one line, that you have to be in it in order to win it. And one more aspect I really want to highlight in my message is that the tourist spots at present is very highly populated. You'll get tourists everywhere, anywhere. But that also brings lots of challenges in terms of cleanliness.
Yes, right.
And there are, bottles, wrappers, your chips. This kind of unnecessary elements actually destroys the flora and fauna of the beautiful spots that Meghalaya has. There are lots of waterfalls, and it so happened that each and every time we go to such beautiful locations, for example, Weisodong or Fepe waterfalls, you have to clean. So before we take our equipments, 30 minutes will pass by cleaning all those. And the worst thing is that those bottles will be broken into pieces. There are glasses everywhere. It is such a disappointment. So we have to coexist. Not coexist, we need to exist. In order to make our life more healthy and productive, we need these elements with us. Nature has a healing power.
Right.
Yeah, so
And it's actually important when it's coming from a doctor.
Yes, it's very, very important that we preserve now this very time, that we don't pollute. We also carry lots of wrappers. We also carry our fast foods, but we never litter. So we carry, and after we are done, we put in our pockets and throw in the dustbin. So these are the proper manners we always, landscape photographers. I mean, I know a lot of my friends who also does cleaning, then be responsible with all the things that we carry. And we also advocate others to practice. So that's very important.
I think this should be taken a lot more seriously, especially in the photographer's circle, because you can never be a good photographer if you're not a responsible human first.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to. It was lovely having a conversation.
Thank
It was lovely having you at the Meghalaya.
Thank you so much.
Our next magician, Dr. Henry Nongrum, has carved out a niche for himself in wildlife. The subjects in his image are mostly animals and birds, and it appears as if they indeed pose for him. Welcome to the Meghalayan, sir. It's lovely having you over. Since you said that your forte is wildlife photography, but then how did you actually begin with this? Was it always wildlife, or did you actually do something else before switching on to this?
So it's like this that yeah, I've started doing my wildlife since 2014. So it's basically my first love is wildlife would be. But wildlife we're able to do like 2 to 3 times the big trips, like 2 to 3 times in a year. The small trips within Shillong or within Meghalaya that we frequently do. So but then there are seasons for it, like in the monsoons or because you have particular seasons where you can really go for wildlife expeditions. So there's a void in between. So that void is being filled up by landscape photography or astrophotography. But yeah, the basic thing which I do is wildlife photography.
Right. How would you define wildlife photography being different from the other forms? Maybe landscape or maybe nightscapes, maybe astro. How would you differentiate it? Since you have done both, I think you're the best person to talk to about it.
So there are two aspects to it. The first is your preparedness,
Right.
and the second would be on your camera setting. So these are the two aspects of it. So if you're looking at preparedness, it's like in landscape photographs, you already have a plan. You can plan a place. You already have an idea about the terrain. You already have an idea about the landscape.
Right.
You already have an idea about the sunrise, the sunset.
Right.
You can also have apps where you can predict whether it's going to rain or you're having clouds or you're going to be a bright day.
Right.
So you can plan. And if you're looking at astro, the landscape part you have already planned. You know that where the east is, where the west is, where the north pole is, where you'll find the pole star, where will the Milky Way rise, at what time. The apps which will tell you at what time the Milky Way will come up into the horizon, or at what particular time will it be high in the sky. So you have all these timings. So the landscape astro, you have this. You can well plan way ahead of time, but is different from landscape because landscape is a split-second decision. Okay, that these animals or these birds, wildlife. In wildlife, you know that these animals exist in this place, in this particular area. Most of the animals are territorial, so you know that this is a territory which they occupy. The birds, this particular territory they occupy. So you know that, but you don't know where exactly they're going to be. Whether they'll appear or not, that's a big question. Then there's about lighting. You're not sure how the lighting is going to be. So everything is uncertain. Everything is uncertain. So it all comes with a big surprise. So sometimes you go and you just go and you just spend the whole day, maybe the entire trip, and you come back empty-handed. Sometimes you go and you get some of the fabulous shots that and they'll make up to your portfolio.
Right.
So one is that. The second part is the camera settings. So camera settings, again, in the landscape you have a tripod, you have your time. Okay. Of course, time is always limited in anything. So you have at least some time to think whether I want to shoot slow shutter, I want to shoot fast shutter, I want to shoot sharp, you want to shoot blur. You can plan your shots. But in wildlife is like split second. So all your camera settings has to be in the memorized. The tissue memory has to be there in your fingertips. Right. So all the settings need to be changed according to the light, and everything has to be in your fingertip, because you're not going to look at the camera setting. Your eyes will be in the viewfinder. Okay, what I'll just show is that, see, this is how we think. Your eyes is in the viewfinder. Right. So you're not going to see. So your camera settings has to be changed with these two fingers. So it needs to be changed every now and then. Right. Every now and then. So the moment you plan, okay, I want to, when you plan in your mind, okay, this animal is going there, I want a slow shutter. So immediately your finger should be able to change the camera speed, the camera settings, so that you get slow shutter or fast shutter, whatever you wish to. Yeah. So you want to take a blur, you want to sharpen well-focused image. So everything is in the finger.
What would be your message or your tips or something that you would say to, that would help them?
So the first step to all the budding photographers who have taken this as a passion or as a profession, just enjoy photography. Right. There's so much to it. You can learn so much, and there's no limit to learning. You can go on learning and progressing because it's an art, and an art or anything which you are studying, or there's always a progressive curve. So you can always go up the curve, and you can lots of things to learn. And if you're looking at wildlife and landscape photography, when you do these photography, you get very close to nature. You get very extremely close to nature. In fact, you become a part of the. We are already a part of nature, but you become become a very close entity. So then you realize how important it is for you, for nature, and you to be living and coexist. I mean, in harmony, and because the forest needs you, you need the forest. There's nothing like we don't need the forest, we don't need the trees, we need each other. So when you do these photographies, you tend to understand more. You get an in-depth understanding of how important are you to each other. So that way you can grow more, and we can understand life more better. Because when you see the animals, when you see the birds in the forest roaming freely, and so independent. One thing which is very important is that you feel that how great our creator is. He's created everything in harmony without giving weightage to any particular species or anything. And so we as humans are no superior than the other animals who are living in coexistence. So you get a more in-depth understanding, and when you do wildlife photography, you have you get a lot of peace of mind. So so for the budding photographers, there's a lot of things to learn in this field.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to it. It's lovely having you over the Meghalayan.
Thank you.
A third photographer, Banlumlang Lingdo, is an accomplished wedding and event photographer, and is testimony to the fact that your passion can indeed become your profession. Hi Lumli, welcome to the Meghalayan. On the occasion of World Photography Day, we actually got into a conversation with a couple of photographers belonging to different genres, and most of them do it for passion. But for you, it is your bread and butter. Photography is your bread and butter. How did that transition happen?
Well, hello everyone. Thank you, Abha, for having me on your show to let me share my journey in photography. My name is Banlumlang Lingdo, and I'm an event and wedding photographer, aka Lumli. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Well, it all started back in 2013 when I was in hostel. I used to spend time in reading magazines, and I used to admire those photograph in a magazine. Most of the time, I used to think how is that possible? Such a good picture. Later, I came across one photographer. His name is Sel Chong. His work is amazing, and from the moment I saw his work, I took as an interest. It's inspired me a lot by his work, because from his work there is a message and art at the same time.
Also, to conclude, what were you actually, passionate about? That how passionate were you that you actually chose to do this for the rest of your life, or maybe to actually make it the means of your bread and butter? How passionate were you about photography?
At first I start capturing. I start with my family members and all that, but later they encouraged me, why don't you do it as a profession, because you are good at it. But then I don't really count myself into that level, because I was not having the confidence, and I was not really sure that I can do it. But later I give a try, and
here we are. Thank you so much for joining us at the Meghalayan.
Thank you.
On the occasion of World Photography Day, we can only be thankful for these visual treats. Like the wise photographer Ansel Adams once said, photography is an austere and blazing poetry of the real. The Meghalayan Bureau.